Hey guys, here's 97 Stowe 171. Been a while since I did another video. A little tired today, so I'm a little off my game, and it's just the way it's going to be. A lot of shit happening this week here. You can see here the asphalt. The railroad company came in, dug out all down the sides, down the middle, all the way down to the bare railroad ties. I think they actually replaced the railroad ties as well. And then they put these, you can't really see it, but they put railroad ties to the left of the track with a piece of rubber sandwiched, and then on the right of the track with a piece of rubber sandwiched so that the train can run down the middle. It's like your typical car crossing now, you know, where you got wood on both sides of the track. And then they filled the inside and the outer edges with blacktop. I don't expect it to last. Inside the track will probably last because it's boxed in. It doesn't have any place that it can go other than crush it down, and then you can always put more blacktop on top or concrete or something. But on the edges here, you can see how they just laid it down across the gravel and then packed it down. And that gravel's pretty loose. I guess that's what they should have used for asphalt. I don't know. I'm expecting as these heavy trailers roll over the edges of that asphalt, it's probably going to break it off. And then it'll slowly work its way up. You know, as you snap off a piece, it'll snap off the next piece, and eventually it'll wear. But you know, even if it goes most of the way, it'll still be pretty smooth all the way up to the wood, and at least we won't be cutting our tires. The big problem we were having was we'd cut our tires on the inside of the track because the outside edge isn't really sharp. It's the inside edge that's sharp, and it's protected now by the wood. So it may be a little bumpy getting over the wood, but at least we probably won't be cutting our tires anymore. And we'll see how long it lasts. It was a total clusterfuck on Monday. For whatever reason, they should have done this whole thing on Saturday, on the weekend, and they didn't. They started blacktopping on Monday in the middle of the beginning of the busy time. Couldn't move the trailers anywhere. We had trailers freaking out on the street and all over the place, and you couldn't drive over it. I'll show. If I have time, I'll edit this video and I'll post some pictures that I took before they put the thing in. There's like inside between them tracks, it's like a 1.5 to 2 foot drop. I mean, it's like that in between. So you couldn't drive over the tracks, and it was pretty much the same at the edge of the track. So all these trailers that were in here from the weekend couldn't get out. Not very good planning. I don't know why they just didn't do it over the weekend, but they didn't. Anyway, it's done pretty much. They got a little bit of cleaning up work to do, but it's pretty much done now. So I'm heading up to Rochester. Which you guys have seen before. I'm just doing a video because I haven't done a video for a while, and I was kind of waiting for that guy to get out. Clear that trailer there. So I mean, this is nice. Now we won't be screwing up our tires like we were, which was a problem. I've cut and destroyed several pretty, brand new tires. It was pretty terrible in here sometimes, but it's an improvement. Why they didn't do? I mean, I know concrete's more expensive, but concrete would have lasted longer. And as usual, it's lost tight as it always is. So it was fun taking the Subaru back in there in the loose gravel, though. My Subaru's right there, my green one there. Little Impreza Outback, and of course it did pretty good. Obviously, couldn't go across a railroad track because I don't have 2 foot of or 1.5 foot of ground clearance. So even I think a Jeep. A Wrangler probably would have made it, although probably not a stock Wrangler, because it was such a sharp drop off. You would have been, I think you would have caught the bumper or something. But so what else is going on? mentioned in my last video that I'd wanted to get a Jeep, and I still do want one, but the wife and I have decided we're gonna, my fucking mirror is way the hell off, concentrate on getting out of debt first. So, you know, with the economy the way that it is, and she just took on a part-time job on her 2 days off, so she now works 7 days a week. And I put in, you know, 70 hours, you know, 60 to 70 hours, it varies week to week. Well, the idea is to try to get out of debt. We don't have that much. Her car loan's about 10 grand, which isn't that much for a car loan, really, nowadays. And some medical bills and just, you know, little shit. 1,000 here, 1,500 there, but nothing really big other than the car loan. And so she wants to get all that paid off, and then you know, after that, maybe we'll think about doing something. But the more I thought about it, I mean, I'd like I said, I'd love to have a Grand Cherokee. It would be a really cool vehicle to have. But you know, what is it going to really do that I need it to do? I don't have a boat. I don't tow anything. Subaru's all-wheel drive. You know, gas mileage is about the same. Doesn't really matter. But you know, it's paid for. So this is sort of the problem with the economy in general. Is there's a lot of people like me, even people like me, you know, people that are in better financial shape than we are. You know, they may not have any debts, but a lot of people are choosing to, you know, pay off their credit cards and rather than buy more stuff, and that's good, I think. But it's also part of the problem with the economy is, you know, people are afraid to spend money because they don't know what's coming, and because they don't spend money, the economy doesn't get better. You know, it's kind of a vicious circle. I think it would change if we had a little more confidence in the government, and I don't have confidence that the federal government could flush a toilet correctly without writing a 500-page manual on the exact procedure on how to flush a toilet, and spend about, you know, $50,000 studying exactly the proper method for flushing a toilet. You know, that's why we really need to get less government. My wife was, you know, she works in law enforcement, and she was looking over a list of charges that can be filed on people, so she can figure out what bond they need to have if they need to get out, or, you know, for various reasons. She had this list, and she needed to try to write down the ones that were the ones that she saw the most often, and highlight them so she could remember them. They used to be in the computer automatically, and now they upgraded the system and took all that shit out, which, again, you know, there's government for you. Just going through the list, I mean, it was, you know, it was a stack of paper about that long, single type. I mean, each line of was like that, you know, and some of the things that you could be arrested for. I mean, there was one in there, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but it was like, it had something to do with farming, where there was a charge because you stacked the hay too high in the barn, or something like that. I mean, there were several other incidences of just, you know, do you really need a fucking law for that, really? If you stack the hay too high in the barn and you get yourself killed because you're a moron, well, you know what? So there's your problem solved. One less moron in the world. Do we really need a law for that? And that's just local ordinance stuff, you know, or county. Imagine, you know, the thousands and thousands of pages of federal regulations, and we wonder why businesses move elsewhere. You know, unbelievable stupidity. The problem is lawmakers up in Washington, they have to justify their own existence, and it's true not just with lawmakers, but, you know, I see it in the trucking industry as well, where, you know, the DOT and FMCSA, you know, their whole goal when they were founded was to improve road safety. Well, the safety statistics are much better than they were. You know, they've accomplished, you know, 95% of what they wanted to accomplish. And now they have to spend all of their attention focusing on that last 5%, because otherwise they have to admit that the agency that they work for is no longer needed. You know, all the proper codes have been written, and so we don't need you anymore, and nobody's going to do that. So instead, they try to write more and more detailed, ridiculous regulations to try to eke out that 1 more 0.1% improvement in safety, to justify the organization's existence. And it's not just government. You could look at PETA, you know, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. You could look at the NAACP. You know, there are several other organizations that are that way. When they were founded in the early 60s, you know, there was a lot of abuse of one thing or another, and they've accomplished 95% of that. So now all they have left is to sit back and complain about little things. Okay, enough yapping about God. It's depressing. I will say, though, that so far I'm liking Herman Cain. I know he just got caught up in this supposed sexual harassment thing, but honestly, 20 years ago when this happened, there were a lot of lawsuits being filed by a lot of what I would call extreme feminists, where you know they file a harassment lawsuit on you because you told, you know, they walk in the morning, you get, wow, you look really good today, or your dress looks really nice. Lawsuit, you know, stupid little shit like that. So we don't even know what this was all about. And you know, the other aspect of this is Herman Cain could have, I mean, other than like sexual assault or something where, you know, there was something physical, how could what he did be possibly worse than Bill Clinton getting a blow job in the White House by an intern while he's married? But somehow, you know, that was okay. So I guess I try to compare what Herman Cain could have possibly done 20 years ago to what was okay for Bill Clinton to do in the White House. And by the way, I actually am not an anti-Bill Clinton guy. I personally always thought it was something that should have been handled between him and his wife, and had no business relative to his job. But you know, if you want to talk about moral standards, you know, everything I've heard about Herman Cain is that he is a kind, thoughtful, genuine person. He obviously doesn't have a lot of experience in politics, or he would have been out in front of this report before it actually hit the news media, because obviously he knew it had happened, and he should have, you know, when he first came out, he should have said, hey, you know, 20 years ago this thing happened to me, and, you know, been out in front of it. But he's not experienced as a politician. Quite frankly, I find that attractive. I've got enough damn politicians up there. We need somebody that actually knows how to do something. But, so I'm liking him. I know his 999 plan is popular with some and not others, and I'm sure it needs to be tweaked. But I think at least he had the guts to come out and say, hey, I got an idea on how to change it. You know, let's talk about it. What else is going on? We got a teacher up in Mason, Ohio, Stacy Schuler, or as the funny people on the radio are calling her, Sloppy Shula. She had intimate relations with like 5 high school seniors. They're all 17, or I think one of them was 18. They're all members of the football team. So these are like, you know, 200-pound guys. And I guess she, you know, kind of suggested some things, and somehow they got a hold of her address. I think she kind of let it slip. And they came over to her house one night to have a party. And they got one. I think it was 2 the first night. And by the way, these poor little innocent snowflakes, as their parents would call them, brought the pot with them. So, you know, you're going to your teacher's house with pot. I don't think you're an innocent snowflake at that point. And they did it this way and that way, and then I guess the word spread a little bit, and two more people came, and then there was a fifth at some point. And this was all you know, broadcasted in the media. They had news reporters in the courtroom. And let me pause the tape here, guys. We're at 15 minutes. I'll see you in a second.